Amphibians. What do amphibians and secret agents have in common? They both lead double lives. Most amphibians start off living in water and end up living on land. They go through some amazing changes on the way. Most amphibians mate and lay their eggs in water. The eggs have no shells, but they are protected by a layer of jelly.
The eggs hatch into larvae. The larvae have tails but no legs. Instead of lungs, they have gills for breathing underwater.
Gradually, the larvae grow legs and develop lungs. An amphibian leaves the water as a young adult.
Kinds of amphibians. Amphibians are divided into three main groups: frogs and toads, caecilians, and salamanders. Frogs and toads. Unlike other amphibians, frogs and toads have no tails when they're adults. All frogs and toads have 4 legs. Most of them use their hind legs, which are usually very long, for jumping. Frogs and toads live all over the world. Some live entirely in or near water, and others live in deserts and never go near water. Most frogs and toads are small, but the largest may be nearly a foot, 30 centimeters long.
Caecilians. Caecilians look more like worms than like amphibians. They have scaly skin and no limbs at all. Most caecilians burrow into damp ground. One type lives in rivers and streams, wriggling through the water like an eel. Some caecilians grow to be 5 feet, 150 centimeters long. Unlike frogs and salamanders, many caecilians give birth to live young.
Salamanders. Salamanders look a lot like lizards. They have a long body and tail, and most kinds of salamanders have 4 legs. Most salamanders live in regions where the seasons change. They spend much of their time hiding under logs and in other cool, dark, damp places.
Japanese giant salamander. The Japanese giant salamander is the world's largest amphibian. It can grow longer than 5 feet, 150 centimeters, and weigh as much as 220 pounds, 100 kilograms. These large creatures eat fish, frogs, and other salamanders. Many people think that giant salamanders make a good meal, and today these animals are rare because so many have been caught for food. Body of an amphibian. Scientists believe that amphibians descended from fish. Like fish, amphibians are vertebrates, which means they have backbones. The body of a fish and an amphibian are now very different. Amphibians were the first vertebrates able to live on land, and scientists think that the changes in their body made it possible.
Many amphibians have tongues for moistening food and catching prey. The amphibian was the first vertebrate to produce sounds from its throat. A male frog makes croaking sounds to call to mates and to let other frogs know where its territory is. Amphibians were the first animals to have eyelids. Eyelids keep their eyes from drying out on land. Unlike a fish, an amphibian has a well-developed sense of hearing. It uses its ears to listen for prey and to identify possible mates.
An amphibian doesn't have any legs when it first hatches. A caecilian never develops legs, but most other amphibians do. A salamander that spends all its life in water often has only 2 legs instead of the usual 4. An amphibian has a strong backbone and broad, flat bones to support its weight on land. It also has a well-formed rib cage to protect its heart, stomach, and other body parts.
An amphibian has thin, moist skin. The skin is covered with a slimy mucus that keeps it from drying out. It also makes an amphibian slippery and hard to catch. The mucus of some amphibians is poisonous. Young amphibians have tails. The salamander has a tail all its life, but frogs and toads lose their tails as they grow up.
An amphibian doesn't have any legs when it first hatches. A caecilian never develops legs, but most other amphibians do. A salamander that spends all its life in water often has only 2 legs instead of the usual 4. Breathing. Most animals have only one way of breathing. For example, fish use gills, and mammals use lungs. Amphibians have 3 ways to breathe. Most breathe with gills during their life in the water, but when they move onto land, they develop lungs. Amphibians also breathe through their skin.
The Mexican axolotl is a salamander that breathes with external, outside gills. The axolotl doesn't change as much as most amphibians. It keeps its gills and lives its whole life underwater.
Most amphibians are able to get enough oxygen by breathing directly through their thin, moist skin.
During metamorphosis, the gills of an amphibian are replaced by lungs, which are often quite small. An amphibian needs these lungs for life on land.
Hot and cold. Amphibians are cold-blooded. Their body temperature changes with the temperature of their surroundings. When it gets very cold or very hot outside, amphibians have to find a place where they can keep warm or stay cool.
If an amphibian's temperature drops too low, its body processes slow down so much that the amphibian dies. Salamanders and frogs sometimes burrow into the bottom of a pond or lake when the weather turns cold. There, they wait for the cold weather to end in a kind of light hibernation called torpor.
Amphibians sometimes get too hot. Frogs that live in the desert may burrow into the cool sand during the day, coming out only after the sun goes down. Some stay underground for weeks, months, or even years at a time. A bubble-like layer of skin around their bodies keeps them moist. This type of sleep is called estivation.
Amphibious assault. Many amphibians are brilliantly colored in startling shades of red, blue, yellow, and green. These colors aren't just for show. They help amphibians protect themselves against their enemies.
This Pacific tree frog can be hard to keep an eye on. In a matter of minutes, its skin color can become darker or lighter to match its surroundings. Because the Pacific tree frog is so well camouflaged, it can escape its enemies and surprise its prey. A spiny newt is a very unpleasant mouthful. When a predator picks it up, the newt's pointy ribs stick out through its skin. The ribs pass through poison glands, releasing the poison into the predator's mouth.
From the top, an alpine newt looks kind of plain. Underneath its dark gray back, however, it has a bright red or orange belly. This bright color is a sign that the alpine newt is covered with poison glands.
This salamander is harmless, but many birds, snakes, and small mammals stay away from it anyway. It looks like the poisonous red-spotted newt, which they have learned not to eat.
Turtles and tortoises. Did you know that turtles and tortoises are reptiles? They are, but they have one thing that no other reptile has: a shell.
A turtle shell covers the turtle's top and belly. The top part of the shell is attached to the turtle's backbone and is covered with the same material that your fingernails are made of. The hard bony plates on the bottom part of the shell protect the turtle from predators. When a turtle feels threatened, it can hide even more of itself under its shell. Some turtles pull their head and limbs completely inside the shell. Others wrap their long neck around the front of their shell and tuck it in.
By land and by sea. Turtles live on land, in the sea, and in fresh water. Their bodies look different depending on where they live. Can you match the shells and the feet that go together? Click on each set of feet to read about them. Then drag the feet to the shell you think they go with.
Turtles that live in fresh water have webbed feet. Like ducks, they can paddle very well through rivers and lakes. The shells of freshwater turtles are usually flatter than those of land-dwelling turtles. Because of their flat shells, freshwater turtles can lie almost invisible in the water. Turtles that live on land have clawed feet that help them dig and grip the land. Their shells are very strong and heavy and have a tall dome shape. Land-dwelling turtles are often called tortoises. Turtles that live in the sea have flippers for feet to help them swim easily through the water. Their shells are usually slim and light. Some sea turtles can speed along at almost 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometers per hour.
Food. A fish spies a worm wiggling in the dark and swims quickly toward it. Snap! The fish will never have its meal. The worm was only a decoy. It is actually a small part of the tongue of the alligator snapping turtle.
Snapping turtles eat plants and all kinds of animals that live in the water, including snails, frogs, and insects. Other turtles are pickier eaters. The leatherback turtle, for instance, eats mostly jellyfish. Most tortoises eat nothing but live plants.
Tortoises and turtles have no teeth. Instead, they use the sharp edges of their jaws to cut through plants and animal prey. In danger. Turtles have been around for about 200 million years. Most have long lifespans. Some tortoises live more than 100 years. Like all animals, however, many species are threatened by people. Seaside dangers. Sea turtles are almost completely aquatic, but, like other turtles, they must lay their eggs on land. Turtle eggs would sink underwater. One night a year, female sea turtles crawl onto the beach to lay their eggs. They bury as many as 200 eggs in a pit, and then cover them with sand and smooth over the top to make it hard for predators to find the nest. Even so, most of the hatchlings die. They're food for gulls, crabs, lizards, and other animals. Humans also steal the eggs. Efforts are now being made to protect the turtles.
Galapagos tortoise. This huge reptile lives only on the Galapagos Islands in the Pacific Ocean. It has suffered from the rats, dogs, and other animals that people have brought to the islands. These animals eat the turtle's food and eggs. People, too, have destroyed the tortoise's habitat. Galapagos tortoises are now protected by law. False map turtle. One of the many water creatures that suffer from pollution of rivers and lakes is the false map turtle from North America. The harmful chemical waste that people pour into the water has also harmed the snails and shellfish that this turtle eats for food.
Sea cows. Have you ever heard of a sea cow? A sea cow is not a cow that lives in the ocean. It's the name that people often give to large water mammals called dugongs and manatees. Like cows, these animals spend most of their lives grazing on plants. Unlike cows, dugongs and manatees do their grazing underwater. The only true sea cow, called Steller sea cow, became extinct in 1768. The slow-moving sea cow was so easy to catch that people killed all of them for the delicious meat. Even Steller's sea cows weren't related to cows, however. The closest relative of sea cows, dugongs, and manatees is actually the elephant.
Veggie specials. Dugongs and manatees eat only plants. They must eat for 6 to 8 hours a day to get enough energy to keep their huge bodies going. Dugongs and manatees are between 3 and 15 feet, 1 to 4.6 meters long, and weigh between 440 and 3,600 pounds, 200 to 1,600 kilograms.
Dugongs and manatees keep their heavy bodies afloat using gas. Eating so many plants makes their bodies produce a lot of gas. The gas helps lift them off the ocean floor.
Grazing on water plants all day wears down the teeth of dugongs and manatees. Their teeth grow all the time, so they always have new teeth to chew with. The old teeth move slowly to the front of the mouth and fall out when they are worn. New teeth grow in from the back of the mouth.
Despite their large size, dugongs and manatees don't have a layer of fat to keep them warm. Instead, they live only in warm waters. Most plants grow best in warm, sunny places too.
Dugong or manatee? Can you tell the difference between a dugong and a manatee? Click on the picture for a clue or two.
You can tell a dugong by its tail. The tail is indented and has a point on either side. Only one type of dugong is alive today. It's found in large herds feeding on algae at the surface of the water. Dugongs come up for air and to look around about once every 2 minutes. If they see a person, they swim away and hide. A manatee's tail is rounded at the end. Manatees can be found in the warm, shallow waters of seas and rivers. There are 3 kinds. One of them, the West Indian manatee, lives in the rivers of Florida. All have huge upper lips that can grasp food and pass it into their mouths. Manatees live alone and stay underwater for up to 24 minutes while they graze. They only spend 2 to 5 seconds at a time on the surface to catch their breath. A manatee's tail.
Mermaids? Scientists believe they have found the mermaids from pirate stories. What do you think?
Enemy. The slow, gentle dugongs and manatees have only one enemy: people. People run over them with boats, catch them to eat, and pollute the waters they live in. Today, every kind of dugong and manatee is threatened with extinction.
Dugongs and manatees cannot move quickly. In Florida's warm, shallow rivers, they are often cut by the blades of boat motors. Noise from the motors also disturbs the animals during mating season.
Manatees are protected in some places. They're so good at clearing plants from waterways that people use them as natural weed killers in reservoirs and lakes.
Lanternfish have bodies that can generate
Fish. An adult whale shark is about 47 feet, 14 meters long. A mature pygmy goby is about half an inch, 15 millimeters long. About 40,000 other kinds of fish measure somewhere in between. Fish come in all shapes, colors, and sizes. From the outside, most fish have a powerful tail, fins for balance and steering, and a streamlined body for speed. There are very few things, however, that all fish have in common. The mouth of a fish lets food and oxygen-rich water enter the fish's body. Some fish have little mouths, and others have mouths that look bigger than the rest of their body. Many fish have powerful teeth.
A fish's eyes are on the sides of its head, so it can see both sides of its body at once. Fish don't have eyelids, so their eyes are always open. It's hard to sneak up on a fish.
Fish do not have external ears, but sound vibrations travel through their body tissues to the inner ears inside their heads.
Most fish are covered in bony discs called scales. There are 4 main kinds of scales: placoid, cycloid, ganoid, and ctenoid. Like a coat of armor, scales help protect the fish from predators and other things in the water. Cells in the skin of the fish produce a slime that makes the fish's scales slippery.
A fish's tail fin usually makes the strongest movements of all the fish's fins. The tail fin is called the caudal fin and is used to push the fish through the water.
Anal fins help keep a fish upright in the water. Fish don't have solid ground to stand on like you do.
Dorsal fins prevent the fish from rolling over. The pectoral fins help fish steer. For example, a fish sticks out its left pectoral fin to turn left. Sticking out both pectoral fins helps a fish stop.
Many fish have a row of small pores called the lateral line. The lateral line helps fish sense movement, temperature, and pressure.
On the inside. Fish are more alike on the inside than on the outside. All fish have backbones, and almost all breathe through gills. Most fish are cold-blooded. Their body temperature changes as the temperature of their surroundings changes.
Most fish breathe through gills instead of lungs. Gills trap oxygen from water instead of from air. Fish store most of their fat and vitamins in their liver. Fish get nourishment from many kinds of food. Most fish are meat eaters. They often prey on other kinds of fish. Some fish eat plants, plankton, or algae. Some fish are scavengers and eat waste and dead animals.
Most fish have a swim bladder that keeps them from sinking. The swim bladder is filled with air. It fills when the fish goes up and empties when the fish goes down.
Most of a fish's internal organs lie in the lower half of its body. The rest of its body contains large muscles that help its tail move. Kinds of fish. Fish can be divided into 3 groups: jawless fish, fish with skeletons made of cartilage, and fish with bony skeletons. Cartilaginous fish have skeletons made of cartilage instead of bone. Cartilage is a tough, elastic substance that you have in your joints, ears, and nose. Only 3% of all fish are cartilaginous. Among them are all sharks and rays.
As you might have guessed, a jawless fish doesn't have jaws. Instead, it has a round mouth and a toothed tongue, which it uses to hang on to and gnaw on other fish. The lamprey in this picture has attached itself to the outside of another fish. Lampreys suck the blood of their prey until they are knocked off or the other fish dies.
Most of the animals you call fish, tuna, cod, trout, goldfish are bony fish. The skeleton shown here once belonged to a flatfish.
Becoming a fish. All fish hatch from fertilized eggs, eggs that have united with sperm. Most fish release their eggs and sperm into water before the eggs are fertilized. The eggs of some fish, however, are fertilized inside the female's body. In these cases, the young hatch inside her body and are born alive. Egg. Inside the egg, a developing fish is called an embryo. As it grows, the fish is nourished by the egg yolk.
Fry. Fish are called fry or larvae when they hatch from the egg. You can see that the orange egg yolk is still attached to the fry. The fry keeps using the yolk until it's all gone.
Fish. This young fish is ready to hunt for food. A fish is an adult when it begins to make sperm or eggs. This may happen a few minutes, months, or years after hatching, depending on the kind of fish. Most fish grow bigger throughout their lives. Defense. Fish have as many ways to defend themselves as they have colors and patterns. For most fish, their looks are their defense. Most fish hide from predators by blending in with their surroundings. They may also protect themselves by copying the colors of poisonous fish. The bright coloring of the lionfish warns other fish that it is poisonous. The lionfish carries its poison in fin spines, a special kind of scale. Other fish have heavy, armor-like scales that protect them from enemies' teeth. Many small fish swim together in large groups called schools or shoals, twisting and turning together as they look for food. A predator is sometimes so confused by their numbers and quick darting movements that it cannot single out a fish to attack. Evolution. Fish were one of the first large animals to appear on Earth. For almost 500 million years, they have swum in the oceans. Scientists think that fish are the ancestors of all other animals with backbones, including you.
The first fish didn't have jaws. The jawless fish on Earth today are the direct descendants of these fish. The development of a jaw in some fish let them eat things other living things couldn't. You couldn't eat meat without being able to open and close your jaws and chew with your teeth. At some point, fish crawled onto land. Fins slowly changed into legs, which made walking easier. Amphibians like this salamander are much like walking fish. They still spend some of their lives in the water. Most vertebrates no longer live in the water. They have changed so they can live entirely on land. They have hands, feet, hair, and lungs, instead of fins, scales, and gills. Of course, many vertebrates still swim. Do you?
Sea lions, seals, and walruses have gone back to spending much of their lives in the water, where there is plenty of space and food. Some vertebrates, like whales and dolphins, have returned to the water completely. These animals live in the water, but they aren't fish. They breathe air, and the bones inside their flippers look like the hand bones of other mammals. Name that tuna. Do you know the names of these fish? Drag each name to the correct picture.
The porcupine fish gulps water or air and puffs itself up when an enemy comes near. The whale shark is the largest fish on Earth. It can weigh more than 10 elephants. The manta ray is also called the devilfish. The horns on each side of its head help funnel plankton and other tiny creatures into its mouth.
Don't let this fish's name scare you. Also known as the Hawaiian reef triggerfish, the Huma Huma Nuka Nuka Apua'a lives in shallow tropical waters around coral reefs where it eats small water animals and plants.
The lanternfish is a living nightlight. It lives in the deepest, darkest waters of the ocean, where the pearl-shaped glowing organs along its side attract prey.
Eels. The eel has a long, slithery, snake-like body covered in slime. It has scales, but the scales are so small that the eel appears to have none.
Electric eels are not really eels. They're just shaped like eels. They're actually related to catfish.
All eels have long fins along their backs and undersides. Unlike other fish, eels have no pelvic fins. All eels have long fins along their backs and undersides. Unlike other fish, eels have no pelvic fins.
Saltwater eels. Most kinds of eels live in the ocean, either in the shallow seas of the tropics or in cold, deep waters. In general, eels are fairly small. Some conger eels and moray eels, however, can grow to 9 feet, 3 meters. Moray eels have a reputation for fierceness, but they usually bite only if threatened. Most of the time, they hide in cracks or caves. Moray eels are predators. Some hunt fish, and others eat crabs or shellfish.
Gulper eel. Unless they've eaten well, gulper eels look like just a mouth and a tail. Like many deep-sea fishes, gulper eels are often black or dark brown. Some kinds of gulper eels grow to more than 6.5 feet, 2 meters. This gulper eel is about 24 inches, 60 centimeters long, and has tiny teeth. It feeds on small prey simply by swimming along with its mouth open.
Freshwater eels. Even eels that live in rivers begin and end life in the ocean. Both American and European eel larvae hatch from eggs in the Sargasso Sea, a part of the Atlantic Ocean near the West Indies. The eels spend most of their lives thousands of miles north in Europe and North America. Adult eels lay eggs in the Sargasso Sea. The eggs float in ocean currents. They eventually hatch into larvae which swim north during the next 3 years.
The larvae metamorphose or change several times during their journey. Finally, they change into mature glass eels. Glass eels have very little color. By the time they reach Europe, the glass eels have become miniature eels called elvers. Elvers gather at the bottoms of inland rivers. Females swim upstream, feeding on freshwater animals as they grow into yellow eels. After 7 to 10 years, they change into adult silver eels. Males stay in the coastal saltwater, growing and waiting for the females to return.
Every year, female silver eels slither through lakes and streams and across fields to return to the ocean. It may take the males and females more than a year to swim back to the Sargasso Sea. There, the eels mate and females release huge numbers of eggs. Adult eels die soon after breeding.
Meals of eels. People in many parts of the world like to eat freshwater eels. These eels are especially popular in Europe, where they are sometimes sold alive in the marketplace. People in North America eat more smoked eels, which are less oily than fresh eels.
The person in this picture is using a special scoop to catch eels. People also use nets and cages to catch eels. Besides being an important food fish, eels are harvested for their skins, which can be made into leather.
Platypuses. What is furry like a mammal, has a rounded bill and webbed feet like some birds, and lays soft-shelled eggs like a reptile? The platypus. The platypus seems to be a strange combination of many animals, but it is all mammal. When the skin of a platypus was first sent to Britain from Australia, scientists thought it was some kind of trick. They thought someone had created the skin by sewing a duck's bill and feet onto the fur of some mammal.
Platypus parts. The platypus lives in the rivers, ponds, and streams of Australia, including the island of Tasmania. It can move about on land and is a good digger, but it is most at home in the water.
The bill of the platypus is about 2 inches, 5 centimeters long. It is shaped a lot like a duck's bill. It's broad, flat, and covered with shiny black skin. Unlike a duck's bill, however, the bill of a platypus is soft and flexible. It is very sensitive and can detect even tiny movements. When feeding, a platypus noses around in the mud for shrimp, insects, shells, and worms.
Unlike many mammals, the platypus has no external ear flaps. Its ears are covered with fur and can be closed when the platypus dives underwater.
The platypus is a powerful swimmer, thanks to its webbed feet. Each foot has 5 toes, which are useful for digging.
Male platypuses have sharp thorn-like spurs on their back ankles. The platypus uses its spurs to inject a poison that comes from glands in its hind legs. The poison kills victims by thickening their blood. The platypus doesn't have any natural enemies, but its poison can kill a dog and cause a lot of pain in a full-grown person.
The platypus is a powerful swimmer, thanks to its webbed feet. Each foot has 5 toes, which are useful for digging.
Reproduction. Most mammals give birth to live young, but not the platypus. Platypuses are monotremes, or egg-laying mammals. Female platypuses usually lay 2 soft-shelled eggs that hatch 1 to 2 weeks later.
The platypus digs a complex breeding burrow up to 100 feet, 30 meters long in the riverbank. Here, the female lays eggs and raises the young when they hatch. The female has no teats, but milk comes out of tiny glands on her belly. The young push on these glands and lick up the milk on her fur.
A newly hatched platypus is only about 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters long. It is blind and completely hairless. A young platypus has teeth, but they gradually disappear and are replaced by horny plates in the cheeks. Adult platypuses use these plates to grind their food.
There is only one other monotreme in the world besides the platypus, the echidna, or spiny anteater. An echidna has short legs and a long, thin snout. Its body is covered with coarse hair and sharp spines. Once a year, a female echidna lays 1 egg, which she places in her pouch on her belly. The young echidna hatches in about 10 days, but it stays in its mother's pouch, feeding on her milk for several weeks.
Fossils. Fossils are the imprints or remains of dead animals and plants that have been preserved for thousands of millions of years. A fossil might be the tooth of a dinosaur embedded in rock or the outline of a plant on a stone.
Some of the most common fossils are the shells of sea creatures called ammonites. Ammonites were related to octopuses and squid. They were widespread about 250 million years ago, but they died out with the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago.
How fossils form. Most living things never turn into fossils. When they die, their bodies are broken down by fungi, bacteria, chemicals, and moving water. If a living thing becomes buried after it dies, however, there is a chance that it may leave a trace of itself behind as a fossil.
Most fossils are plants and animals that lived in the water. When a plant or animal died, its soft parts rotted away, leaving the hard pieces like bones or leaf veins. Gradually, layers of mud piled up, creating great pressure that squeezed the remains of the plant or animal. Slowly the mud, along with bones and other remains, turned to rock. This process is called fossilization. Over many thousands of years, the movements of the earth twisted and buckled the rocks, lifting the fossils closer to the surface of the soil. Sun, rain, and wind wore away the rocks and exposed the fossil.
Types of fossils. Paleontologists, scientists who study fossils, find many kinds of fossils. Can you find some too?
Often even the hard parts of a creature or plant rot away after being buried. If the sediment around them has already turned to stone, however, this leaves a hole called a mold in the rock. The mold may later fill up with sediment. When the sediment hardens, it forms a cast fossil like the trilobite shown here.
Water often seeps into the pores of buried plant or animal material. Minerals in the water may slowly replace the original parts of the dead creature or plant. This is called a mineralized fossil. The mineralized fossil shown here is a poplar leaf that's 25 million years old. Some ancient insects are preserved well enough for us to study them in detail. This insect became trapped in the sticky sap of a pine tree hundreds of thousands of years ago. The sap hardened around the insect, forming a piece of amber in which we can see the insect today.
The cold sometimes preserves plants and animals. Mammoths that lived thousands of years ago have been discovered encased in ice or frozen ground and are largely intact.
The fossilized signs of animals, such as footprints, droppings, and tracks, are called trace fossils. Footprints are impressions, formed when the sediment containing the print turned to stone. Impressions may also form when the soft parts of a plant or animal decay before the sediment around them hardens to rock. Learning from fossils. Scientists have learned most of what they know about prehistoric times from fossils. The fossil shown here is an ichthyosaur, a sea reptile from about 150 million years ago. What can you learn from it? Click on the buttons to find a question, then drag each button to the part of the ichthyosaur that answers it. How might the ichthyosaur have stayed upright in the water?
You're right. The ichthyosaur used the fin on its back for steering and balance in the water.
Where do you think the ichthyosaur's eyes might have been?
You're right. Ichthyosaurs had large eye sockets. Archaeologists think the bones around the eyes may have helped them focus. How would you find out what the ichthyosaur ate? Good idea! The ichthyosaur had long jaws with dozens of sharp teeth. Scientists guess that these teeth help the ichthyosaur grab slippery prey, such as fish. Can you find something that may have helped the ichthyosaur steer in the water?
Yes, the ichthyosaur used mainly its front flippers to steer through the water.
Did ichthyosaurs have ribs? If so, where do you think they might have been?
Yes, these are the ichthyosaur's ribs.
How could you tell if the ichthyosaur was a vertebrate, animal with a backbone, or invertebrate, animal without a backbone?
You found it! This is the ichthyosaur's backbone. Unlike the backbones of modern sea animals, it curves downward at the end. When archaeologists first saw this unusual structure, they thought that the ichthyosaur had a broken tail.
Can you find something that may have helped propel the ichthyosaur through the water?
You really know your ancient sea reptiles. The ichthyosaur moved quickly through the water using powerful up and down strokes of its tail. The ichthyosaur probably looked a lot like a dolphin, but bigger. Some ichthyosaurs were 30 feet, 9.1 meters long. Ichthyosaurs may have lived a lot like dolphins too. Their bodies had the same streamlined shape, so they probably moved quickly through the water. They breathed air and had to come to the surface to fill their lungs. And scientists know from fossils that ichthyosaurs gave birth to live young.
Crayfish, lobsters, and shrimp. Crayfish are hard-shelled animals that prowl at the bottom of streams, ponds, and other freshwater habitats. They are closely related to lobsters. Lobsters live only in salt water.
Crayfish are usually less than 6 inches, 15 centimeters long. They live in the fresh water of every continent except Africa and Antarctica.
Lobsters live in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The common, or American lobster, is usually about 10 inches, 25 centimeters long, but may grow as long as 24 inches, 60 centimeters. The largest American lobster ever caught weighed 45 pounds, 20 kilograms. Body parts. The body of a crayfish and a lobster are similar. Like the bodies of other crustaceans, both are divided into segments. Can you put the segments of this lobster's body back together? Drag each body part to where you think it belongs. Crayfish and lobsters use 4 of their 5 pairs of legs for walking.
Each segment of a lobster's body, down to the smallest leg and feeler, is covered by a hard outer skeleton called an exoskeleton. The exoskeleton gets thinner near the joints of the segments so the animal can move easily.
Crayfish and lobsters have 2 pairs of antennae, one long pair and one short.
The front two legs end in large claws. Lobsters and crayfish use their claws both to catch food and to fight. A crayfish or lobster may lose a leg or claw during a fight, but a new one eventually grows in its place.
The front part of the body is made of 13 segments. The top is covered by a single stiff shield called the carapace.
Not all of the long back part of a lobster is the tail. The 6 jointed parts, or segments, are really its abdomen. These segments can move. When a female crayfish or lobster lays eggs, the eggs cling to the underside of her abdomen. Young lobsters hang on until they're ready to swim.
Unlike some other crustaceans, lobsters and crayfish have tail fans, flat, rounded parts that help them swim backward at high speed.
Food and feeding. Crayfish and lobsters are both hunters and scavengers. They eat a wide range of food, from plants to worms, snails, other crayfish and lobsters, and small fish, dead or alive.
Both crayfish and lobsters are most active at night. During the day, they hide in a burrow or under a rock. They guard the entrance with their feelers, and they dart out of their shelter only if they detect a passing meal. The swamp crayfish in this picture builds chimneys of mud as it burrows down to water level in a swamp or meadow. Its burrows, which are 12 to 40 inches, 30 to 100 centimeters deep, can ruin farmland. Both crayfish.
Like people, some kinds of lobsters are left-handed or right-handed. One claw is larger than the other. The larger claw has big, blunt teeth that hold prey and crush hard shells. The smaller claw has thin, sharp teeth for tearing flesh. Crayfish claws are evenly sized with sharp teeth.
Defense. Crayfish and lobsters use their claws to protect themselves and to capture prey. If a large predator threatens, a crayfish or lobster can shoot backward into shelter by flicking its tail quickly downward.
Shrimp and prawns. Shrimp are small relatives of lobsters and crayfish. Shrimp live in both fresh and salt water. Large shrimp are called prawns.
Shrimp range in size from less than an inch, 2.5 centimeters, to more than 8 inches, 20 centimeters long. They're usually green, brown, or pinkish. Shrimp and prawns don't have the large front claws that lobsters and crayfish do, but they can use their tail fans to scoot backward quickly.
Many small shrimp feed on plankton, tiny plants and animals that float in the ocean. In turn, shrimp are a main part of the diet of many fish. Crustacean cuisine. Many people consider shrimp, crayfish, and lobster their favorite foods. You may have eaten one of these crustaceans yourself.
Lobsters are bluish-green. They turn bright red only when they are cooked in boiling water.
The best meat in a crayfish, lobster, or shrimp is in the abdomen, the same strong muscles that these animals use to move backward in the water.
Fishing boats drag big nets across the bottom of a river or ocean to scoop up shrimp. China currently catches more shrimp than any other country.